That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, so we had a very interesting week of football here, and I honestly think there are some great running backs that we can be looking at from the waiver wire. Now, how I'm going to structure this video is I'm going to talk about guys at the very top that are available in about 50% of leagues right now. So some of these players, some of these guys are really only available in about 35% of leagues. So the guys at the top maybe are not even going to be on the waiver wire, but we're going to slowly go deeper and deeper and deeper to the point where we get at the end of the video, and those players we're going to be talking about are available in every single league. So make sure you stay to the end of the video. But before we talk about these players, you know exactly what I have to do. I have to pull up our last YouTube video so I can pick out some comments to give away Fantasy Flock Network hats for. Okay, this is a Fantasy Flock Network hat, and every time that you leave a comment, if you're subscribed to the channel, when you leave that comment and drop a like on the video, you are entered in to win a Fantasy Flock Network hat. So our first comment's going to be coming out from Foster, who says, odds that Antonio Gibson's role expands moving forward. We're going to talk about Antonio Gibson tomorrow, so make sure you come for that. Can't say that right now in this video, but anyway, just send me that email with your physical address. That way I can get you that hat sent out ASAP. You can find that in the description of the video. And Luke coming out says, that's my boy Mike Williams. I had to sit Dalvin Cook for him, but it all worked out well. I was excited, and I also stacked him with Justin Herbert. My friend, I am so excited to hear that your week 3 went well, and congrats on winning a Fantasy Flock Network hat. I'm excited for you. And yeah, I think that should be it. Let's go through. Let's talk about some of these must-add running backs. And let's start it off with the player that everybody knows is a must-add guy. We've been talking about him since Thursday. This is Chuba Hubbard. And with Hubbard, we already went in depth with him. Now, what I will say is, it's surprising to see how many leagues he's available in. He's only rostered in 25% of leagues, and you're not going to be sneaking this one by your league mates at all. While yes, it's going to be available in the majority of your waiver wires, I'd imagine that most of your league mates actually probably already have bids placed for Chuba Hubbard. And with that being said, if you are going to go after Hubbard, you're probably going to be pretty aggressive if you're playing in a free agent bidding room, or if you're just playing in a league where maybe it's last place gets first bid, or maybe it's second to last place gets second to last bid, whatever the hell it is. A lot of people are going to be going after Chuba Hubbard here. And if you look at Hubbard this past week, I will say I was impressed, because we know that Chuba Hubbard, coming out of Oklahoma State, this was a running back that nobody could deny the rushing talent that he had. If you go back to that 2019 season at Oklahoma State, we already went over the stats. We already showed exactly how dominant he was. This was a running back that was a Heisman finalist as a sophomore in 2019. And then after that season, there were just most people assuming, including myself, that he was coming to the NFL after that 2019 year. And a lot of people had him in the same range of DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor in that draft class. A lot of people thought he was going to come in and automatically be some elite level prospect. Well, that did not happen for whatever reason. He thought it would be great to go back to Oklahoma State. As a Texas Longhorn, I have no idea why anybody would ever think it would be great to go back to the state of Oklahoma, but besides that, he goes back and just plummets his draft stock with a very disappointing redshirt junior season. Now, there were a multitude of things that happened. A, he had some off-the-field stuff going on with his head coach, and B, he also had multiple injuries that kept him out some games his final season. So this ended up causing him to fall to the third day of the NFL draft. And historically, this is a range where these running backs are not necessarily making a massive impact. Now, he does go in a similar range to the draft as you actually have with someone like Michael Carter. Someone that a lot of people are excited about coming into the season. But with all this being said, we know that he is a great running back. The problem is, we thought that he had a limited role in what he could see with the receiving game. He was someone that wasn't used massively as a receiving running back at Oklahoma State. Now, he got 5 targets this past week. Yes, I know that they signed Duke Johnson, but keep in mind here, while I want to be a fan of Duke Johnson, this is a running back that has not been on an NFL roster in 6 months at this point. And also keep in mind that you have had how many running back injuries so far this NFL season, and Duke Johnson is finally getting signed. If Duke Johnson is finally getting signed right now, after Le'Veon Bell, after Devontae Freeman, after Latavius Murray gets cut, then signed somewhere else, I mean, I would imagine that Duke Johnson's role is going to be extremely limited. If anything, this upcoming week, I'd imagine that he's probably put on the practice squad. They just need an extra body just in case Chuba Hubbard gets injured. So yeah, Hubbard, I think that he is someone that, dependent on matchup over the next few weeks, we could potentially put him in our starting lineup. Definitely going to be one of the top adds this week. No, he's not going to be as much of a priority as our next two running backs, but keep in mind, I said at the beginning of the video, we're going to talk about these guys that are only available in about 35% of leagues. Then we'll go deeper and deeper. And this guy right here, only available in 36% of leagues currently. This is Alexander Madison. Now, with Alexander Madison, if you let him get to the waiver wire before Sunday, that's on you. I mean, that is your issue here, and that this is a running back that everybody should have picked up as soon as Dalvin Cook was ruled out. You should have had him before then, but I mean, at the minimum, you should have picked him up as soon as Dalvin Cook was ruled out, because we know with Alexander Madison, based on what we have seen before, in small sample performances with no Dalvin Cook in this offense, that Alexander Madison could turn into a 3-down workhorse running back. That's exactly what happened here, where anybody who decided to start Alexander Madison had a fantastic day of fantasy in week 3, where he comes out 26 carries, 6 receptions, 182 total yards. I mean, Dalvin Cook was sitting there going, oh my God, is Alexander Madison this good? He was a monster. Now, I'm not saying to pick up Alexander Madison and saying, oh, he's now someone you can start when Dalvin Cook's healthy. There's no way you could ever consider playing Alexander Madison if Dalvin Cook's going to be active for any NFL game. Doesn't matter the matchup. Doesn't matter if the reports are coming out and saying, oh, Dalvin Cook's only going to play a limited amount of snaps this week. No, it doesn't matter. You'll never play Alexander Madison unless Dalvin Cook misses. But Dalvin Cook has been a running back known to miss time before, and it's not like he's just dealing with one injury right now. He's dealing with multiple lagging injuries, just kind of like what you're dealing with Josh Jacobs in Las Vegas. So might as well go pick up Alexander Madison, even if Dalvin Cook's back this week. He just showed you exactly why he needs to be on a roster, because I mean, where would you value Alexander Madison? Just say that Dalvin Cook comes back this Sunday, Dalvin Cook tears his ACL. Not wishing it on Dalvin Cook or anything, but I'm saying it's obviously in the range of outcomes. And if that were to occur, where are you putting Alexander Madison? Is he a low-end running back 1, high-end running back 2 the rest of the season? So if he's one injury away from that elite ceiling, you have to make sure he's on your roster. Now, our next running back, I don't even want to call him a running back, but he's listed as one. Let's go Cordarrelle Patterson. So with Patterson, he's making back-to-back must-add running back videos for us. I mean, he was on the video last week because going out against Tampa Bay, I mean, he actually had 7 carries, 5 receptions, more importantly, had 69 yards and multiple touchdowns come along with it. So he had a fantastic week 2 performance against a very good Tampa Bay Buccaneers run defense. Now, I will be the first person to admit that I came out and I told people that I was not wanting to start him going into week 3, just because in week 2, while we definitely wanted to be picking him up after that performance, and we definitely needed to be lowering Mike Davis down everybody's rankings, given the fact that Cordarrelle Patterson did have a locked-in role. It's not like you could have just looked at that week 2 performance with the touchdown volume and assumed that's going to transfer week to week, and he's 100% a guy you need in your starting lineup. Well, now he comes out and he proves, well, this role may be consistent, because in this week, I mean, he only has 7 carries, not a big deal, but more importantly, 6 receptions out of the backfield. 6 receptions for a running back that's the size of Cordarrelle Patterson, so we know he can get the usage in the red zone. That is massive. He goes over 100 yards, so it's embarrassing to say that I told y'all not to start him. And now the question is, like, are we excited about starting him this upcoming week? Now, I'll say once we get to the spot of the season where you're going to have bye weeks consistently that you're having to deal with, and you're having to look for a depth piece on your roster, this is where I think Cordarrelle Patterson comes into play. And we're about to have to start looking at those guys that aren't just the Alexander Madisons that have the elite ceiling if a running back goes down in front of them, but you're also having to start to look for these guys that, I mean, they are just having a standalone role in their offense. Whereas, I mean, if you are desperate, if you have a couple of injuries throughout, if you have some bye weeks going on, you can plug and play them. That's going to be Cordarrelle Patterson. And obviously, if Mike Davis did get injured here, Patterson would see even an expanded role. I mean, we have seen him just before have a decent amount of touches in a game. I know it's a very small sample, but he is also a massive quote-unquote running back. Now, our next player is going to be someone that I told y'all to draft. And I honestly did not plan on including him in this video until I had a question in the premiere from the last video and saying, Mason, do we pick up Zack Moss? And I went, pick up Zack Moss? Is he not already on your roster? Like, is Zack Moss actually on waiver wires right now? And I went through, did a little research, and according to Yahoo, Zack Moss is rostered in only 52% of leagues. So it's a 50-50 shot on if Zack Moss is going to be available on your waiver wire. That is absurd. Zack Moss in week 2, he came out, he showed that he has that goal line role for the Buffalo Bills. And what did I say about Zack Moss coming into the season? Why did I say that this is a player that we wanted to be drafting at the very end of our drafts in 2021? It's the reason that, Zack Moss profiled to be, in a committee, but at the end of the day, he was going to be a committee running back on one of the best offenses in football. That's what Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills have proven to be so far. Josh Allen comes out, he gets a rushing touchdown this week. He also has 4 passing touchdowns. Yet, you would assume that if Josh Allen vultures that rushing touchdown at the goal line, then all of a sudden Zack Moss isn't intriguing at all. Well, no, Zack Moss comes out, 13 carries. What I really want to look at is 3 receptions out of the backfield. He's getting utilized in a multitude of different areas, 91 total yards, and a touchdown to go along with this. So back-to-back very strong performances from Zack Moss. And this goes right back to what you have with Cordarrelle Patterson. You're not extremely excited to go play Zack Moss in week 4, but he is a running back that has a decently high floor. So if there were anything to happen to another running back on your team and all of a sudden you need a player that you can slide in for your running back too, Zack Moss will be a perfect option for that. And then also we have to look at the fact that it is in the range of outcomes for Devin Singletary to get injured. And what would happen to Zack Moss's projection if all of a sudden Devin Singletary is not in this backfield either? And Zack Moss, with his size, we know he could do it, is a bell cow running back on one of the best offenses in football. While Zack Moss, y'all know that I wasn't wanting to draft either Devin Singletary or Zack Moss going into the 2020 season based on the fact that Josh Allen would be vulturing those touchdowns at the goal line. And I don't necessarily like the talent profiles for either running back. The offensive production overall matters way more than the actual talent profile for a running back. Look at Saquon Barkley in New York right now. So I think that we actually do just want to go through and pick up Zack Moss everywhere we can. Now, our next running back, talking about a bad offense. A bad offense. Let's go over with a Michael Carter. And now I understand with Michael Carter that you had Tevin Coleman out this game. But this should be a spot that you expect Michael Carter to just continue to expand his role in this offense every single week. He is available in about 53% of leagues right now. So he's just like that coin flip right here that you had with Zack Moss. And if you're looking at the opportunity that he had in this game, now, trust me, I know it's so hard to be playing any of these New York Jets players, which is why I'm telling you, do not pick up Michael Carter and put him in your starting lineup. Just like I said with Rondale Moore last week, this is a player that we're very excited to pick up for his long-term upside, not what we're going to be getting right away. And here with Michael Carter, why we're excited is he had 75% of the carries for this team this week. And now that's not a lot. He had 9 out of 12, but keep in mind this team was in a position where they really couldn't run the ball. And he also had 2 out of the 3 targets out of the backfield. And if Tevin Coleman's dealing with this nagging injury, I just think that Michael Carter is someone that can maybe just see this continued workload down. You're not starting him. The only way that we're starting him is maybe we have a 3-week stretch going forward where Zach Wilson can go from being the worst quarterback in the NFL, and it's not even close, to all of a sudden that's someone that's maybe just slightly below average. Oh my gosh, that would be fantastic for everybody. Then all of a sudden you could have Michael Carter coming through and being the lead running back on a slightly below average NFL offense. And then of course he has low end running back 2 potential. So I do think we want to be picking him up. Now our next 2 running backs, these are guys that are going to be deep calls. Okay, so the players listed up until this point, they were probably available in like 10-man leagues, some 12-man leagues, no 14-man leagues, definitely no dynasty leagues, of course. But now you can get to those deeper formats with our next running back. And I have to hold a fat L here. It's embarrassing what I was saying about this situation. Peyton Barber coming out and just embarrassing Kenyon Drake truthers. Now, I didn't necessarily love Kenyon Drake coming into the season. Instead, I loved Josh Jacobs when we were getting him in the 5th round, knowing the touchdown upside that he had with how this team looks to run the ball consistently once they get in the red zone. And I actually was fully buying in to Kenyon Drake over the past 2 weeks, to be honest, as we were looking at Kenyon Drake with no Josh Jacobs as a running back that all of a sudden was possibly going to be playing in the Aaron Jones role where he was seeing every single target out of the backfield. He possibly also had interesting role inside the red zone, and that if you go back to what he actually did with Kyler Murray in Arizona, keep in mind Kyler Murray is going to demand a significant amount of defensive attention, but he was elite with his run efficiency at the goal line. So I was assuming that there was a small chance that they gave Kenyon Drake the role in the red zone as well. So if he was getting the targets out of the backfield, if he was also at the same time getting the usage at the goal line, you had to be so excited about Kenyon Drake coming into this week. Now, with that being said, Peyton Barber, who's only rostered in 6% of leagues, comes out 23 carries, 111 rushing yards, a rushing touchdown as well. And if you looked at that rushing touchdown, I mean, it broke my heart as we watched it because they were at the 1 yard line and Kenyon Drake was nowhere to be seen. It was only Peyton Barber in there. Just punched it in, as you would assume. Then what's also very surprising, 3 receptions, 31 receiving yards. And I know a lot of people are going to say, Mason, shut the hell up. We don't need to hear about the receiving numbers for all these running backs. Why do you focus in on it so much? It's because in a PPR format, I mean, it's literally a cheat code. Like if you're going through the difference between Peyton Barber coming out and getting 23 carries, 111 rushing yards, and a rushing touchdown, while that's a great game, if he didn't get any usage in the receiving game, I'm sitting here going, well, probably don't want to pick up Peyton Barber because, I mean, if you don't have that rushing touchdown, but he scored you 11 points. I mean, that's not someone we want. Whereas if you are getting those targets out of the backfield, if you come away with 3 receptions for 31 receiving yards, that's an additional 6 fantasy points. That's the equivalent of adding 60 more rushing yards onto his statistics for completely free. So with Peyton Barber, I think we have to pick him up. I'm genuinely impressed. Now, of course, you're not going to be excited about playing him this upcoming week, especially if Josh Jacobs is healthy. You're never playing Peyton Barber. And to be honest, I really only think you want to pick up Peyton Barber if you believe that Josh Jacobs will miss this next game. But very similar to what we have with Dalvin Cook right now. Josh Jacobs isn't dealing with one injury. Josh Jacobs is actually dealing with a multitude of injuries. Now, our last running back, I don't necessarily think you need to go pick him up right away. He's more so a player that I definitely want to have on our radar. So y'all know there were 2 guys I hated coming into fantasy drafts at the running back position. Mike Davis and Myles Gaskin, based on the fact that a lot of people were coming out drafting them in a really aggressive range of the draft based on the projected roles that they had in their offenses rather than just the talent profiles of the running backs. And we know that those projected roles, if you're drafting 5th round running backs, really they're not nearly as safe as what people think. And Malcolm Brown was one of those reasons. I mean, Malcolm Brown, we said he was a running back that got signed from Miami. We saw that he was able to take touches away from both Darrell Henderson as well as Cam Akers. Oh my God, it hurts saying that Cam Akers' name this past year. Now he's doing the same thing. He's taking these touches away from Myles Gaskin. I mean, he gets 7 carries this week. He also actually gets a role in the red zone. Now, Myles Gaskin is getting everything in the receiving game here. That's why you're picking up Malcolm Brown in a deeper format, only if you're looking for an intriguing handcuff running back, trying to find the next guy like Chuba Hubbard. I think that could be Malcolm Brown if you saw anything happen to Myles Gaskin. Now, obviously, it's a pretty bad offense, but we're going deep here. I'm trying to find some players that are for people playing in those 16, 20-man leagues, maybe people playing in those dynasty formats as well. So yeah, thank you. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. Please make sure you go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you are subscribed to the channel, drop that like and leave a comment. You also get entered to win a Fantasy Flock Network hat. We'll be live tonight. I'll be live tomorrow night, the night after that, the night after that. That way you can tell me how stupid I am. And yeah, that's all I got for y'all, and have a great day.